tests, you'll get a color printout sent home to your house. Or I think we also did it at conferences, first quarter conferences, where the teachers will explain to you if your child is on track to be proficient or advanced and what specific strands can be worked on. So that's immediate feedback right there for what you can do. And so we'll do it. We do it now as like a benchmark to start. We do it again in November. We do it again in February. So by the end of those 3, you should really see. And they actually have a chart that shows like here's where all the average progression is, and here's where your student is progressing. So you can look and see, and then you can have conversations with the teachers about what that is to help. So that's one way that you can really work on it. We also will begin our tutoring and our after-school programs. We've just hired a woman named Angela Lewis, who is going to be here as the community school liaison, and her full-time job will be to work on intervention programs, community involvement, bringing parents and school together. So one of the things that she'll do is really work with the kids that we need to that aren't progressing and make sure that they're going to tutoring and what kind of support are we giving them and what kind of intervention. I've had many calls of different people that want to push into classrooms to help to make things smaller. So here's another way. You know, if you've got some free time and you want to volunteer an hour in a math class or you want to do a special reading group, it really helps. We lost, and I'm going to say this because I like to, we lost our instructional facilitator, which means we lost an administrator in this building, and we lost our literacy coach in this building. We never were given a math coach. So we are down 2 administrators, and we are up 48 students. So, and there's a discrepancy if you look at the allocation with the other buildings. So I don't know. I'd talk to the powers, but those are, and they know it from me. So, but those are things that we really need help with. So now the literacy coach would go in and help the teachers plan lessons or give ideas for differentiation. We've lost that support person. So we really have to. That's where some places the parents may be able to help. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No.
Don't want to cut you off, but as PTO, I'm going to make sure I'm correct in my terminology. Another thing that could help with, is attendance. In the area of attendance, we have a certain group of kids that we're going to be targeting to make sure that they can get here and that they can be the 90%. We're going to have something for everybody, nice things for everybody that makes it, but we're going to target a particular group of kids. In that effort, we're going to have different prizes and different incentives that way for those kids. And so any kind of things that you may have that you might want to donate, or if you know some company that, has a few laptops, you know what I'm saying. But what nice things that we want to say, okay, you group of kids, if you made 90% this quarter, these are the things that you can get. Or this is the drawing that you can pull from to get these things. We really need that from you all and your contacts in the community, whatever is possible, because there are no funds for this. It's just a prayer and a miracle that we got the things we did last year, but we really need your help.
And we did, so we are starting off very calculated and targeted. So we have the students from the elementary schools and from last year who weren't at 90% last year for attendance. So Ms. Rexel's already sending letters. We actually are bringing them in and meeting with truancy officers. I mean, like different levels of support. But then we also have, if they maintain 90%, then they get to, last year we put them in a raffle for an iPad mini. So, as ways to incentivize them for coming to school. We're doing the same thing, honestly, with kids who have behavior concerns that we are really starting, and that's one of the work that we were talking about in our Elevate committee meeting is what do we need to do to engage those kids? What do we need to do to get them the help that they need? And talking about we need to know who, we have identified the kids, now we need to do some research around who those kids are and then program for them specifically versus just let's put this blanket program on here. So we're really got a lot of great community resources to help us do that work. How we're working on it with the greater population of students is really raising the level of rigor. And you'll see this year. Each of the content areas is doing what they're called performance tasks each quarter. And the performance tasks are what are getting us ready to do the Smarter Balance test, which is the Common Core Standards. And what it basically is, and teachers, you can kind of talk to this, but it's like instead of your ComArts test where you just read and tell me what it was read about, you look at multiple types of tests. If the math and the science have a lot to do with, you want to give examples of your performance test for this quarter that you're working on?
So for instance, in 6th grade ComArts, the first unit, actually 6th, 7th, and 8th grade ComArts, the first unit is on building community. And that's a really good example of a Common Core concept. It's a very large concept, and it's one of those concepts that's going to solicit multiple answers that are all correct. So that's another focus of the written in multiple ways, a lot of different ideas, and they're still all correct. So, for instance, the performance task for 6th grade communication arts will be something to this effect. The students will be given 2 written articles, and then either some kind of electronic video or a fiction piece. And then they'll have to answer one question, something like, what are the traits of a positive community? And the students will have to go through and read all of those articles and consolidate all of those pieces to prove what the traits are of a positive community. As opposed to our traditional selected response, like Dr. Jordan indicated, read the passage, identify the main idea. We just can't afford to think that small anymore.
Right. And that's the biggest difference between Common Core and the math test is that they'll say, Ashley being the Common Arts expert, but they say things like, it's not just like, what do you think anymore? You have to prove it with text. So it's really making the kids go back and prove everything with text. So social studies is doing it with document-based questions that they're trying to work with and learn about. Common Arts is working with it. Ms. Feemster, do you want to share your math performance task for first quarter?
For the first quarter, we're doing 6th graders, 7th graders, and 8th graders. We're approaching it from an algebra perspective. Whatever skill the students are learning, it's now where they must apply the actual skill. And our performance events will fall in 4 categories.
Mr. Eric Floydline, please come to the main office. Mr. Eric Floydline, please come to the main office.
4 categories of 4 parts. Part A is modeled by the teacher. Part B, the students work together as team or partners. Part C, we come together as a group to discuss the formats of Part A, Part B, Part C. Then Part D is the actual application where the kids are given a performance event and they must apply the steps. For instance, designing a playground. Another group is designing a carnival aspect. So they must come up with the ideal, the planning, setting up the stations, raising money, having enough room for the participants or the people attending the carnival. So everything is basically applications. None of that multiple choice book answers. It's really applying the skills from Part 1 to Part B.
At our next PTO meeting, I would actually like to bring you all an example of performance tasks and have you work through them. You'd be amazed at the amount of steps. Like the first one that I did was about beads, and you had to come up with profit. It was 6th grade, and you had to come up with profit and loss and how many beads and which one will make you the most money and how much can you do for this budget and how do you sell them, and there was algebraic equations on which beads cost this amount of cents, and you'd have spacers, and it was a 6th grade problem. So we really are trying to raise that level of rigor. We're really looking also in Common Arts at what text they're reading, so that they're not just choosing any book, but that we're really getting back to academic literature and text. And what they're reading that way. So there'll be some fun reading, but also some really specific reading around difficulty levels. And then a lot more writing. So hopefully you'll be seeing that coming home, that every quarter they're supposed to be doing a published piece of writing at various different lengths, but every single quarter they'll be doing one that models the Common Core one. So we're really trying to, across the board, raise our level of rigor so that we're ready to do that and then differentiate. So some of the things that the Elevate community are going to need to do is set up, writing labs after school for kids to get help, math labs and things like that, so that kids can use all that stuff for the different parts of it. So 50% is a stretch, and I know statistically it's probably, but if we want to get all of the points we can, and we want to get all 16 of those points, then we have to hit it we have to hit the progress points, and so we have to have at least a 5% increase to get all of those progress points. So we have to exceed, and so because we won't this next year, we won't be able to hit the straight status points. We're not at that point, so we have to do it through status and progress, and we have to do that together.
You keep talking about